Obama's plan, you wouldn't have to work and wouldn't have to train for a job. They just send you your welfare check. And welfare to work goes back to being plain old welfare.
All right, so that's one of them. And do we have the Inspector General one, control room? If so, let's watch it.
More than $16 billion have gone to companies like Solyndra that are linked to big Obama and Democrat donors. The Inspector General said contracts were steered to friends and family.
The fact checkers tell us those are not truthful. Kevin?
If they're not, then the Romney campaign owes an explanation and an apology to the public for doing that. And I'm not going to shade, just because I'm probably going to support Romney, I'm not going to shade my view of that. Truth does count. The problem with this narrative, and for the president in particular, is that you have got a history of running the country in which deception, innuendo, misleading ideas or facts took precedent. For instance, in the healthcare reform measure, we're going to put it on C-SPAN, and everybody's going to see it, and then they do it in private. There's more of a narrative
between making
Obama
a promise and not following through and affirmatively misrepresenting. And we've been having this debate on this show for a while. Does truth matter anymore?
Yes,
do they care about telling us the truth? Let me ask you, Todd Starnes.
Megan, it does matter. And look, I was in North Carolina on assignment last week, and people are fed up with what's happening in Washington. Both parties, they say, give us the facts, give us the truth, and stop shoveling this fertilizer. And yesterday, when the president said what he did, we smelled a lot of fertilizer coming from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So people want both parties to stick to the facts, and stop all this pettiness.
It's like who do you believe, me or your lying eyes? You know, in this day of video, Bernard Whitman, when it's all on, it's all on camera. We have Stephanie Cutter and so, does it undermine the president's credibility and Mitt Romney's credibility? Absolutely. One who is our leader, one who wants to be, and not just being honest.
The truth absolutely does matter. It's critical to the American political process and democracy. The great unfortunate truth from Mitt Romney is that despite running for president for 8 years, the American public really doesn't know who he is. And you talk about Politifact, you mentioned that. That's an independent Pulitzer Prize-winning organization out of the Tampa Bay Times, rated 1 out of 10 statements that Mitt Romney has made pants-on-fire lies. Right. They also, they also went through, I think the matter of truth is important, so it's important to go back and look at.
Do you think that President Obama was not being straight with us on that felony clip?
I don't. I mean, what Stephanie Cutter said was she posited either this was true or that was true. She didn't call him a felon, but I think what's important to note is...
Should our president be splitting hairs with us like that, Bernard?
I think what we should pay attention to...
No, answer my question, please, respectfully.
I think that the president could have said, I honestly think the president could have reinforced his point and said, you know what, either Mitt Romney lied to you or lied to the American people.
Stand by it. That's what I'm asking you. Should he stand by, if you're going to make the charge in an ad like Mitt Romney did or as President Obama did through his deputy campaign manager, do you need to stand by it, Stephen Sigmund?
Look, I don't think either of these campaigns is going to get accused of having a race to the top, in particular a race to the top on rhetoric in these next 3 months. But when you go back to accusations of innuendo and what kind of narrative has been out there, the Republican Party and Mitt Romney have been attacking this president really since the moment, even before he became the president, but certainly since the moment he became the president. They've called him a failure, they've called him unpatriotic, they've accused him of being a socialist, and they accused him of not being born in the United States.
That's true.
The real problem for Democrats, and by the way, I love when I hear Democrats cite Politifact because it is nonpartisan, and it's also called the whole Metascare campaign conducted against Paul Ryan in 2011, the biggest lie of 2011. They're continuing that lie today. But the biggest problem for the Democrats is they're stepping on their own communication talking points. Paul Begala, in trying to convince Mitt Romney to release his tax returns, basically made Mitt Romney sound like a saint. He's like, I'm sure Mitt Romney has this great moral conduct, high caliber, and that's why he shouldn't have anything to hide in his tax returns. But then all of a sudden, when it comes to something like his tenure at Bain Capital, when it comes to someone potentially dying because of loss of health benefits, Mitt Romney is a felon and he's killing people.
If you don't have the information, you can't make an informed judgment. And as a voter, I'm a voter, I want to know if he has done anything nefarious, and that would be information in his tax returns.
Don't you think, but on that point, I got to go, but on that point, don't you think the average voter at home is not spending all the time time that politicos are trying to find out whether this is true or that is true. They just see the ad, or they see Stephanie Cutter, or they see the Romney stuff, and they just believe.
They just believe.
And
And
ultimately believe and then repeat.
And you know something? If you listen to what everybody says about Obama, the anti-Obama voters out there, the citizens of the United States that don't like him, they make up all kinds of stories. Again, he's a Muslim. He wasn't born in the United States. These are not advocated. These are things that are being called for by the Republican Party.
The problem is the American voter. We've got a bigger problem. There's a lot of sources of information today. Right. People are struggling for a narrative. I don't think that it's good to not tell the truth in a political campaign. But having worked in a White House, I'd say it's a sign of the leader that's going to respond to that, because this is not a nice world. People are going to say a lot less nice things about you, and it reveals something about how people respond to that, whether they get their own message out and so forth, and it tells you what a leader is. I mean, and it's been like this since Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and Abraham Lincoln.
It's true. When you go back and look at the history, this is not the first negative. I got to run. Great job. Thank you all. Interesting as always, weren't they? We're taking your thoughts on all of that. Follow me on Twitter. Let me know what you think. @Megyn Kelly. Megyn with a Y.